Hello, welcome to today's live. It is an exciting day where I'm going to review what I did last week. So we'll just touch on some high points of what I went over last week really quick to fill in anyone who was missing, or if you just want to refresh, it's going to help. And then this week, I'm going to show you how we write the supplement estimate. So quick review of what the adjuster's estimate paid for and just what we're sitting with right now, where the claim is at. And then we're going to write the supplement estimate. I'm going to show you how we wrote this up and answer a couple questions actually that had come up from last week. So excited to dive in here and yeah. Hope everybody's having a good April. It's fantastic that storm season is really ramping up in a lot of areas. A lot of you are seeing wind and hail, which of course is why we're in business, so that we can help those homeowners, those property people get their roofs back to the condition before the loss. Golly, tripping over myself today. So glad you all are here, and I'm going to do, again, a quick recap. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and get going here. And let me get my second screen shared, and there we go. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the State Farm insurance policy. That was the original statement of loss as an example on the roof. I did want to touch today again on this lovely second page of a State Farm policy. What you're seeing here is usually included with most of the estimates that State Farm produces. And here's what it is. It's a summary guide of the summary page, summary for dwelling page for State Farm. And so what you're seeing here, and the reason I bring it up, is in their summary, as an example, they have overhead and profit listed. So my Adobe is doing some funky things today. I must be in edit mode or something. But you can see it says general contractor overhead and profit 10 and 10 is on their sample of their estimate, which I find fantastic. So I just mentioned that because usually you can leverage that to be like, you know, with the homeowner, their sample shows that O&P should be added. They didn't add it to yours. Let's discover why. Anyways, this is a really good conversation. If you can have that with the homeowner, it's great to rope them in on the overhead and profit conversation. As far as the specifics of the estimate, it was written in May of 2024. So that's the price list we're dealing with. You can see May of 2024. So we've got some outdated pricing in our hands. So we'll cover that in the supplement estimate. They originally paid the RCV amount of $21,027. I always look at the RCV amount. I don't look at the ACV amount because I assume our deductible is going to be paid by the homeowner and then we're going to recover the depreciation. Hopefully this is not an ACV policy. It usually will indicate on the summary a lot of the times if it is in fact non-recoverable depreciation. But yeah, today we are working with an RCV style policy, and we're going to be able to get to the amount of $21,000 and beyond in our supplement if we can get our estimate paid. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What we can write for on the estimate, and then of course how to get that estimate paid. So this is the original statement of loss from the adjuster, and as you can see, they have the tear off, the 3-tab. They've got the starter and ridge on the original adjuster's estimate. So that's fantastic news. We've got the exhaust cap, and they've got the pipe jack flashing, and then they've got the drip edge. There's some nuances to everything in supplementing, but I can tell you right now, we should be able to remove and replace drip edge. We won't be able to remove the pipe jack flashing or the exhaust cap. We can't charge for that. They're saying Xactimate pricing puts it in their statement for the removal of the field shingles that they consider, you know, the removal of these two line items included in the removal of shingles. Do I like that? Maybe not so much, but I play by Xactimate's rules, whether it favors me or not. With the drip edge removal is not included in that field bed shingle removal. We'll take a look at that in Xactimate. The R&R drip edge should be on the adjuster's estimate. So that's the first thing I'm noting here that we need to add. Then you've got your front elevation. We've got the siding there, just a minimal amount of siding. Got some window screens and some glazing bead. We're going to wrap the wood windows, and we have some dents, and then we have the overhead door panel. If you were here with me last week, we had some broken windows that were on the pictures. It's not on the insurance estimate, and it looks like the contractor doesn't do that work, so we're not actually going to be adding those broken windows to this estimate. The rest of the stuff is pretty menial, just the glazing bead, wrapping the wood framing, a little bit more siding. So we've got our siding, probably exceeded our siding minimum by now. And then the gutters and the demo debris removal. So that is what we're working with the adjuster's estimate. Let's take a look at what we wrote up in Xactimate. So one moment here. The program just logged me out, so give me 2 seconds. I'm going to pull Xactimate back up. I didn't update yesterday, so it shouldn't throw an update at me. Let me try to get back in here really quick for us. And so you will note that you know, the pricing was outdated, right? We've already seen that we need to add some removal of drip edge. And let me see if I get back into Xactimate here. And there was quite a few accessories on the roof. We had L flashing and step flashing, if you remember from last week. I will run through those photos one more time once I can log back into Xactimate here and show you that visually we can provide proof that a lot of these you know, items, accessories exist on the roof. So what we're going to have to do here, I'm just going to pull up a PDF. It's now wanting me to reset my password. Thank you, Xactimate. Every time I go live, something fun like this happens. But I do have the PDF that I can show you. So let me do this really quick. You want to go ahead and get those pictures up here. There we go. And what we're looking at, and I'm just starting at the front of their file, you can see you've got L flashing, step flashing, all kinds of fun accessories that they did not pay for. Valley metal wasn't on the original statement of loss, so we could go here and you can see, let me get back to the roof part of the estimate. Sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy. That is all they paid for the roof. So you can see in the photos, we've got valley metal, step flashing, L flashing already popping out. We also have some, looks like some kind of line, maybe some cable running across the roof, which is interesting. We're going to want some better photos of what that is over there. I'm not sure. We've got pipe jacks. They did not address ventilation on their roof there in State Farm on the estimate. So we're going to need to address ventilation. And a couple of things. They did give me pictures of the tear off and the install. And we've got some more flashing there. I think we already saw that. Not sure what they're outlining there, but it looks pretty important. They already paid for the hip and ridge. So we've got some other flashing or tie-in that's happening here. And so on and so forth. There's our hail hits, more L flashing. There's some siding damage there. And so we're just going to go ahead and write this up. So I've already got the roof bought, so I don't need to include any of those photos. We've got turtle vents, like I said, and some exhaust caps. So yeah, let's take a look at our estimate in Xactimate. I actually have the PDF version. I'll try to get my live version up for you here in just a second. But the first thing that we did is we updated the price list for April 2025. The original statement of loss was written in May of 2024, so we want to update the pricing. Basically, the argument there, if you get pushback on reprice, is I can't go back to May 2024 and buy gas. I'd love to do that. I'd love to pay for eggs back in 2024, but I can't do that. So we need to update to today's current labor material pricing of when the job is going to be completed. So if you're not going to do the job in April, you might want to wait on the reprice until you're doing the installation. And it might raise the prices, it might not. I would rather start the supplement conversation just letting them know there will be a reprice for when the job the work is going to be completed, and that will help pre-frame that conversation, even if you're not going to do the job. Maybe it's the end of April and the May price list hasn't come out yet. Just let the adjuster know there will be a reprice coming out as soon as the job is completed. And that's something else you could supplement for if it's a bunch of money. I wouldn't go after a reprice, by the way, if it's in that scenario. If the job's going to be done in April, cool. Let's go ahead and reprice it for April. In that scenario where it's going to be done at the end of April, we're rolling into May pricing. Usually it's only, if it's over maybe around $100 with the May pricing, it's hard to go down a road. You got to pick your battles on what you're going to, want to dig your teeth into. So in that example, I might run a May price list. And if they've already paid pretty good on, the supplement that I send in today for April, it's up to you whether you want to chase the $100 or not. So it just depends. But from May to 2024 to April 2025 will probably be a significant price increase. And so that's why when there's that long of time, I do go after the reprice for sure. Should we always go after it? Yes. Via principle, we should always go after it. But in practicality, I'm not going to hold a file open for any reason, an estimate open for any reason if I'm just chasing $100, if that makes sense. Anyways, rabbit trail there. Sometimes I get asked a question. Anyways, the everything you see in bold here is the fact that we are going to ask for something different. So with the insurance estimate, what they paid for was 3 tab. So we recreated the original statement of loss. You'll see that we have the removal, the replacement, the starter, the ridge, and the drip edge. These are, and the exhaust camp and flashing. These are all the original statement of loss. But anything you see in bold is going to be an item that we're supplementing. So right here you can see the insurance paid for 3 tab. Let me go back to the existing pictures. This is what was on the roof. Does that look like 3 tab to you? Nope, sure isn't. So first thing we did on our supplement estimate was to ask for the correct material that was existing. We're going to indemnify the insured to the condition before the loss. They didn't have 3 tabs before the loss, so we're not going to downgrade them when we install the shingles, and the adjuster just might not have caught that. And that's okay, but we can call it out here and say, please review photos of our inspection. Estimate was written for a 3 tab system, while shingles on the roof are architectural. So that's the first thing that we can address here. Second thing is going to be the replacement of the shingles that's given. And then the starter, they definitely had the eaves. So we added for the rakes in our material. So we added the rake into the linear foot, which increased the amount paid out. And they put added for rakes as a note, which is great. And then they added hips, because I think they just covered ridges on the original statement of loss. So they were short there. We do want to use what's called the standard profile, hip and ridge shingles. In Xactimate, there's the hip and ridge cap that's cut from 3 tab. Then there's the hip and ridge cap that is pre-formed, and that's what standard is here. We always want to use a standard line item. It's a increase in price from the 3 tab usually. Sorry here. Let's look at the unit prices. Unit price $857. Yeah. So you can see here the unit price is actually lower. Interesting. This is always fun when you can do this stuff live and you don't have Xactimate up. I'm going to try to work on getting it up, getting the Xactimate loaded here. Yeah, I have a question on why usually the cut from 3 tab would include more labor, which is why it would be a higher price line item. Again, though, going back to, I'm going to use Xactimate as intended. When something is not in my favor, meaning it's a lower price, it's just, that's the way the cookie crumbles. I will double check this for you guys once I get my Xactimate up and running. Amanda, if you're watching, if you could text me no, I have to reset my Xactimate password. That's the problem. I come on live. It was fine yesterday. Come on live to demonstrate Xactimate, and then now I have to reset my password. So if you guys will hang on with me, let me get through this estimate, and then I will go into Xactimate if you still have questions. But let's keep rolling through this. We didn't have any beef with the exhaust cap or the flashing. We did have beef, though, with the drip edge. They didn't have it on the rakes. They also, just had the replacement only, and that's incorrect via Xactimate. I'll show you that here in a second. So these are the 7 line items that were originally included on the statement of loss. And so we addressed our differences by bolding the line item in Xactimate on our supplement estimate, and by adding a note where we have a bone to pick with that line item. We added a note to explain why our line items are different than the original statement of loss. Okay. After the 7 line items that the adjuster had originally paid for, we recreate this original statement of loss. We then add the supplement items down below that section. So in the prime and paint fascia, all of these items from here on are all supplement items that weren't included on the original statement of loss. So we include photos of damage to the fascia. There was no vents on the original statement of loss. There were no rain caps Ice and water shield was not included, and this is an area where it's required. So that is, you'll see here, we're going to cite the code as the line item as to why they should add that to their estimate. The adjuster should add that to their estimate. We had counter flashing, step flashing. There's additional labor to move shingles from the drop site onto the roof. What that means is they had to hand load the shingles here. They couldn't have them roof dropped. In Xactimate, it has a, in the replacement shingle line item, it has the section where it says this is assuming common drop off of the materials. And so they had to hand load all of the material to the roof because they had it loaded to the sidewalk. And so therefore, we asked for some extra labor there. We had a tarp for personal property and landscaping, and then a general labor for moving any contents items away from the building. You've got to remember that Xactimate is built for averages. What does that mean? Well, the average job in the average scenario in the average working environment. So if they have a bunch of patio furniture, you know, the grills, kids' toys, all these things, you know, around the house, well, you don't want those things to get damaged because then, you know, you're going to be on the hook for it. So you're going to move those items away. That's not assumed in an average working environment in the removal and replacement of shingles. That is not there. It could be argued it's in the supporting events, but I would need to show some really good photos of why we are going to move the contents away, you know, deck furniture and some other things, and then how much landscaping they had. When they don't want to pay to protect anything, the adjuster doesn't, I always bring up, well, we can go ahead and do the job as you were, you know, prescribed, but if we don't protect, we're going to have damage, and then you're going to have to pay for the damaged, you know, Japanese oak in the front, next to the front door. Is that really what you want us to do, is not protect the property? So that helps with that argument. They do like to say cost of doing business for some of these things, but if we don't ask, they can't say yes. And I only advocate asking for legitimate and required line items. So that's usually what we add here at the end, just to round that out. There's some project management, supervisory hours, and then there was a permit fee. So not all areas require a permit. So, and then the front elevation section, we found that the ITEL came back with I think a failed ITEL. Looks like it says siding on the home had experienced fading and cannot be matched. I'm not sure if the ITEL report showed that or what. We did get that verbiage back, probably from ITEL if they're saying that. We do have really good photos of the siding here showing the fading. Anyways, and usually you need to be in some sort of matching state for that to be easily approved. Otherwise, you have to go down the road of, we need to bring the property back to the condition before the loss. They didn't have two colors of siding before the loss. Why should they have to endure diminished property value after the loss? That's a whole other road if you're not in a matching state. But there's just some notes on that. The damages to the door were significant, so we need the garage door replaced, not just a panel replaced. The original statement of loss paid for just a panel. And then we have the house wrap and the moisture barrier, as well as the insulation that they did not have on the siding from the original statement of loss. It was just the siding and the accoutrement. We need to have proper moisture barrier and insulation, and we would provide photos of those as well. As for everything else, the same thing on the left elevation with the siding. They asked for the whole elevation due to the line of sight and it not matching. Everything else is pretty much the same. They increased the dumpster on the supplement so that it would included the increase in the siding removal and, you know, dumpster size. So for this estimate, we started, let's go back to the summary here, at $21,027. We do have overhead and profit that we're going for. So before O&P, it was $39,000. That is because of the increase from the 3-tab to the laminate shingles, the reprice, and then the additional supplement items that we've added. If you are able to get overhead and profit, which that's one of the things I specialize in here at Estimate Mastery, the replacement cost value would be $47,192. So that is basically the summary of the claim and what we reviewed last week, and just kind of rounding out our exercise here. And let me try to go ahead and get into Xactimate again really quick. My apologies. I do want to show you a couple things in what are called the click for detail on some of these line items, especially for that hip and ridge. I want to take a look at that. And there's a few other things that I want to point out really quick that happened in Xactimate. By the way, when you guys run your PDF reports of your supplement estimates, I advocate that you should be using what's called the final draft report, and that you should be not using what's called abbreviated. So let me show you that as well in Xactimate. And so, of course, they're sending me a password reset email. This is just like classic for going live. It always is something that comes up that I can't anticipate. Today, it's a password reset. Okay, here we go. So let me load Xactimate really quick. Hopefully this will happen really fast. Okay, good. Thank you. And so, Amanda, if you're watching, I need to get you the new password for Xactimate. That's my admin helping me behind the scenes today. Actually, I'm just going to put it in here. Okay. So now let me share my screen again and cover a couple things to Xactimate, and then we'll wrap this up for today. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Okay, we're working with the Charles Brown estimate. I'm just going to search for Charles Brown here. And then we'll get it to load, and I'll show you a couple things. Okay, here we go. All right, so on that roof, like I said, we like to bold everything that is a supplement line item and then add a note if it's a supplement line item. Talked about the hip and ridge cap here. It looks like it's at 857, and that's because it is a preformed, pre-cut ridge cap shingle. On the original statement of loss, they had paid for the RIDGC without the S. And that is less money. That's what I thought. Let me click for detail here really quick. Shingle roofing nails, Let me look at one other thing. Cut from 3. Aha, they included the removal is what happened. Ours only included the replacement. Okay, so here's a really good example of playing by Xactimate rules. The original adjuster paid for the R&R of the ridge cap, and we can go back and add the RIDGCS, and that will account for that. The thing with this, I wish I could zoom in on this. I can't, but if you pull up any of the click for details for your ridge cap, your pipe jacks, your exhaust cap right now, it all has this. Excuse me, let me go to the. Did they remove it in this price list? That would be cool. Hang on. Oh, it's because I don't have R&R. 1 second. Did they change it? Okay, here it is. Vent is installed as roofing is applied. The removal activity for this line item is intended to be used when the vent only is being removed for disposal. If the vent is being removed along with the shingles on the same roof slope as the shingles, the vent removal would generally be done with the shingle removal line item, and this vent removal item would not be needed. So that's the problem that we're having right now in the industry, is that the adjusters are able to just add the replace only, not the remove and replace, because of that little note. The caveat to though is that the drip edge does not, the R&R drip edge does not have those notes. So I'm asking for R&R drip edge right now. Again, I like to play by the rules, even whether they benefit me or not. Let me bold this line item again. So with the R&R of the drip edge, or the ridge cap and hip shingle, has the same note. This item is generally used with laminated shingles. Roofers will generally include the removal of shingle cap, ridge cap in the per square removal of the price. This removal activity is intended to be used only when the ridge cap is being removed and the adjacent field shingles are not being removed. So playing by their rules, I should use replace only on my hip and ridge as well. That is up to the estimator, and you can make that decision for yourself. I'm just here to provide you with the best information that I can, and then you as the estimator can make that decision. So those are a couple of things that I wanted to cover in Xactimate specifically that I can show you just being on a PDF. So thanks for bearing with me on that. And then, of course, we didn't include the appropriate photos for the siding. Like I said, there was a mismatch. Let me see if I can find that for you real quick. Yeah. So, there, of course, that's a great mismatch. They also talked about this cove height differential, which is interesting. I'm not sure if it just wouldn't interline or interweave as well as another argument for this that the contractor may be trying to use here. But there is a piece, and that's not a great photo, but it is definitely does not match. It is weathered. That one doesn't really show it. Anyways, that was the reason we're asking for the siding in the line of sight of the one that they were asking for a repair on that elevation. We went for a full elevation's worth of siding replacement on this one. Again, you'd have to provide really good photos and documented evidence. Also, the ITAL report that they had also is another layer of documentation on top of the photos. And then, of course, we asked for all of these line items on the roof. And let me pull my calculator really quick here. We started at 21,027, and we wrote our estimate for 47 after O&P. So it's a difference of 26,000. The difference is actually greater. The difference in supplement that we're asking is actually a greater amount than the original estimate that the adjuster paid. So that's how much money is on the table. And of course, that includes O&P, overhead and profit. Has notoriously always been hard to get paid, but that's the kind of stuff we talk about here at Estimate Mastery. I'd love to do a live on how to get O&P paid. It's just a matter of leveraging your homeowner the correct way. So yeah, huge results can happen if you know what you're doing, know what to look for, know what to include, because you can ask for the $47,000, but can you get it paid? That is what I'm going to be talking all about next week. Is now that we have the original statement of loss that we've digested, we now have the supplement written. How do we submit this and get this paid? That is for next week. So if you're interested to see how we get these kinds of results and what we do here at Estimate Mastery, I will put a link in the chat here. If you want to talk to my team about whether we can help and whether we're a really good fit for you, we'd like to chat with you. So just put that out there. Should show up in the comments on both YouTube and Facebook here shortly. And of course, as soon as I end this live, you can go back and watch anything that you've missed. Or if you're watching this back later on and weren't able to join me live, good to see you as well. So, yep, I'll be back next week, same time, same channel, whenever you're watching me from. And if you have any questions that arise after you've watched this video, just put them in the comments down below. We will get back to you. We monitor all of our channels for comments and questions. And yeah, just check out that link if you'd like to. It's a short survey, and then you can book a call with my team, and we can see if we can help you on your estimates and show you how to get these things paid. All right, I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week.